Hello and welcome to Uzreport World News, and my name is Bahram Gafarov. President of Uzbekistan Shavkat Mirziyoyev has made a decision to kill two birds with one stone. During a video conference on Tuesday, he ordered the leasing of agricultural land to unemployed citizens. This, according to Mirziyoyev, on the one hand would contribute to the development of agriculture, on the other to the creation of new jobs.
For this purpose, starting this year, almost 100,000 hectares of land released from grain crops will be provided to the unemployed for the creation of farms. After the cotton harvest, an additional 100,000 hectares of land will be released for this purpose. Providing land to youth was an experiment. Now we're moving to a larger system. We transfer the land to the real owners, to be exact, the people. Mayors, sector managers need to determine which areas for cotton and grain will be reduced and grant them to the unemployed. And it is important to observe justice in doing so. This will provide hundreds of thousands of people with jobs and earnings, said Mirziyoyev. On the same day, he inked a decree intended to provide transparency in land relations, turning the land into a market asset. Thus, the government is planning to abolish the practice of direct and gratuitous provision of land for entrepreneurship. From now on, the land is to be sold as property or leased on the same and transparent terms through an electronic auction. All powers of the mayors of districts and cities related to the allocation and return of land have been abolished. The stability of food prices was another issue on the agenda of the meeting. Lowering prices does not mean forcing entrepreneurs and livestock breeders to sell their products at a low cost. First of all, it is necessary to increase the supply on the market, Mirziyoyev noted. Particular attention, according to him, should be paid to areas that yield high results in a short time. One of these industries is poultry farming. Mirziyoyev added to gain 1 kilogram of weight, a bird needs 1.7 kilograms of feed, while cattle needs 8 kilograms. Uzbekistan produces little poultry meat and eggs per capita. The size of subsidies for the production of eggs is to be increased by 3 times, for the procurement of poultry meat by twice. Producers of feed and poultry products would enjoy reimbursement of part of the loans received for working capital replenishment and implementation of poultry projects. The government is to compensate part of the cost of projects aimed at the creation of modern complexes for poultry cutting. The tax rates on profits, property, land and water for poultry enterprises would be reduced by 50%. The state would also allocate $50 million through microcredit bank for the implementation of relevant projects.
More than 170,000 people living in Chust, Namangan and Pop districts of Namangan region in eastern Uzbekistan are to enjoy regular access to fresh drinking water and wastewater services following the implementation of a $70 million worth major rehabilitation program financed by European Bank for Reconstruction and Development.
A sovereign loan is to be extended to Uzbekistan's regional water utility, Namangan Su Teminatı. The funds will be used to support the construction and rehabilitation of water intakes, distribution stations and networks, mains and the water treatment plants serving 7 rural settlements in the region, along with the construction of wastewater treatment plants, wastewater pumping stations and networks in the Chust and Jumashu settlements. The Uzbek government is to contribute to the project with $40 million worth co-financing. The investment is to connect around 115,000 new users to a water supply and to water treatment networks. The new infrastructure would reduce water losses by 0.6 million cubic meters annually. The project is contributing to Uzbekistan's national program of connecting its rural population to the centralized water supply system by financing major water supply infrastructure upgrades, which will help deliver safe drinking water, improve the personal hygiene of users, and better manage available water resources for decades to come. Based in the Fergana Valley, the Namangan region is one of the most densely populated areas in the country and Central Asia, and is known for its relatively low levels of rainfall throughout the year. It relies heavily on the withdrawal of fresh water from the Sirdarya River, which is largely fed by glacial melts affected by global warming.
Uzbekistan's Ministry of Public Education, in cooperation with the World Bank on Tuesday, chaired a forum that discussed the impact of the education sector on the development of human capital and economic growth in the Republic, as well as the country's further policy measures in this area. Representatives of the key government agencies considered the experience of European and Asian states in boosting their economies through investment in education and analyzed reforms in the Republic aimed at helping the youth in improving the country's competitiveness in the world market.
According to Marco Mantavanelli, World Bank country manager for Uzbekistan, international experience shows that countries that successfully transitioned from low to high income economies invested strongly in education. He stated that enhancing students' educational achievement has the potential to produce economic growth rates estimated at 1 to 2 percentage points. Accelerating the design and implementation of the government's policies on education can set the basis for the full transition of Uzbekistan to a globally competitive economy.
We know from evidence and from experience that countries, and here I'm trying to link education to economic growth, the countries that were successful in their economic transformations invested strongly in education and were determined to raise human capitals and the skills levels of their populations. Today we'll hear cases as diverse as Poland, the Netherlands, and South Korea.
In recent months, the World Bank worked closely with the Uzbek government to identify priority areas as part of the next program of support to Uzbekistan's development. Sherzod Shermatov, Minister of Public Education of the Republic of Uzbekistan, spoke about the reforms implemented in the educational sector. The minister noted that education is no longer considered as a supplementary field to support other sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, compared to previous years.
We have very high rate of growth of population. If you compare all post-Soviet countries, Uzbekistan has this biggest increase in the share of in the population. I mean, we have plus 16 million since 1990. The remaining countries have much lower increase in the population. The next one is the Tajikistan, which increased by only 4 million. Whereas big countries like Russia, Ukraine also, they have a decrease in the population. So it means available school infrastructure, school buildings, etc., which were built during the Soviet time, may be enough for current school population in those big countries. Whereas in Uzbekistan, we have to build the new schools. The available school places and the school kids ratio is increasing every year. So this is the main first concern, first challenge. The first issue we have started is to increase the status of the teacher in a society. So this was the first important thing, and further it requires additional funding to increase their salaries further, because still we have to work hard on this part as well.
With the advent of summer, some regions of Uzbekistan began to experience problems with water supply due to the low groundwater level and the flow of water in the river Zarafshan. The water supply is being disrupted in the Samarkand region. According to the company responsible for water distribution, the delivery is to be temporarily carried out according to the schedule. To meet the drinking water needs of the population from June 8th, drinking water will be supplied according to the interim schedule from 6 o'clock to 10 a.m. and in the evening from 6 o'clock to 8 p.m. With about 1 death for every 10 successful ascents, the world's highest peak, Everest, has recently been conquered by an Uzbek alpinist for the first time from the Nepalese side of Himalayas. Sergei Denisenko raised the national flag of the country, dedicated his achievement to Uzbekistan's 30th anniversary. A solemn meeting of Sergei Denisenko was held at the Islam Karimov Tashkent International Airport. It was followed by an award ceremony held at the Ministry of Tourism and Sport on Monday. The athlete was awarded the honorary title Uzbekistan Iftihari, Pride of Uzbekistan, along with special presidential gifts. Chevrolet Trailblazer. Alpinists from Uzbekistan first climbed Everest in 1998 when Ilyas Tukhvatulin and Andrei Zaykin climbed to the summit. UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List might soon include some of historical monuments in the Autonomous Republic of Karachi, Pakistan. National Commission for the organization studied over 8,000 kilometers at the request of Uzbek government.
For the first time in the history of the Central Asian region, a large-scale work was carried out on detailed documentation of objects using new methods and equipment. Foreign experts collected data using 3 unmanned aerial vehicles. As a result of the research, materials were obtained on 53 monuments of the region. over 67,000 aerial photographs and 144 videos were taken. The thorough investigation covered over 5,000 hectares. Large-scale research would make it possible to form a global strategy to preserve the unique historical objects of Uzbekistan and a program for their inclusion in the prestigious international UNESCO list. The expedition took place under the auspices of the International Institute for Central Asian Studies and with the support of University College London in the framework of the Central Asian Archaeological Landscapes project. The list currently includes 5 heritage sites in Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan's gross gold and foreign exchange reserves as of June 1st stood at $35.5 billion, up $0.6 billion year to date. More than half, or 60.5% of reserves are stored in gold, 38.5% in foreign currency and deposits, while the remaining 1% are special drawing rights. Deputy Finance Minister Odil Isakov said the gold and foreign exchange reserves are safety cushion for the country. Reserves ensure that Uzbekistan's local currency is not devalued. Foreign investors always think before they invest. They wonder if Uzbekistan has enough money to convert local currency into dollars if they decide to withdraw their dividends. An atmospheric water generator was put into pilot operation, which helps to extract drinking water from air in Chimbai region, Karakal, Pakistan. This innovative technology was launched in the test mode and adapted to places where drinking water is not available and its delivery is economically ineffective. According to the data, the device allows receiving from 12 to 30 liters of drinking water per day, depending on the humidity and air temperature. The device doesn't require high power. It's compact, environmentally friendly, and technically does not pose a danger to human life. Uzbek entrepreneurs may soon start earning money for delivering information about traffic violations to Interior Ministry. According to the recent decree inked by the government, sites for installing radars and cameras that monitor traffic violations are to be placed under the hammer via e-auction trading platform. The object is then to be attached as a winner for an indefinite period.
A mine workers camp in northern Afghanistan was attacked in the night. The Halo Trust said in a statement that an unknown armed group killed at least 10 of its Afghan staff. More than a dozen people were wounded. The agency said there were 110 workers at the camp, and an official said that most of the survivors fled to nearby villages. The Interior Ministry said the gunmen were Taliban insurgents, though the group denied involvement. After decades of conflict, Afghanistan is strewn with mines and unexploded ordnance. Agencies have been working to clear them in the years since the Taliban were ousted in 2001. The Taliban frequently attack demining workers because government officials say the workers often help to defuse roadside bombs that insurgents have planted.
Pfizer on Tuesday said it will begin testing its COVID-19 vaccine in a larger group of children under the age of 12, but at a lower dose. The study will involve up to 4,500 kids in the U.S., Finland, Poland, and Spain. Based on safety, tolerability, and the immune response generated by 144 children in a phase 1 study of the 2-dose vaccine, Pfizer said it will now test a lower dose on the younger kids. That is 10 micrograms for 5 to 11-year-olds and 3 micrograms for the age group of 6 months to 5 years of age. Currently, those over 12 years old in the U.S., Canada, and Europe are receiving the same dose of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine as adults, 30 micrograms.
A good question.
Top U.S. infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci on Tuesday said decreasing doses in trials on younger kids makes sense.
The idea of when you're going from an adult trial with adult doses, we do standard, this isn't anything unusual, what's called an age de-escalation and a dose de-escalation study. And when you get down to the younger children, it is not at all unusual to diminish the dose.
According to the CDC, nearly 7 million teens have received at least one dose of the vaccine in the United States, and health experts say inoculating children is a critical step in taming the COVID-19 pandemic.
It won't be long before Alzheimer's patients get access to the new Biogen drug. Just one day after getting the government's approval, the biotech company said Tuesday it plans to start shipping Aduhelm in about 2 weeks. Biogen said more than 900 infusion centers will be ready to administer the treatment. It can't come sooner for the more than 6 million Americans living with Alzheimer's and the first approved treatment in 18 years. Ronald Peterson heads the Mayo Clinic's Alzheimer's Disease Research Center.
I think this is an exciting day for people with Alzheimer's disease. They now have some hope that a drug is going to be on the market that is going to have an impact on the underlying disease process itself.
While patient advocates and some neurologists hailed the drug, others said the clinical trial results were inconsistent and more testing was needed on the drug's effectiveness. Still, it could be a boon to Biogen, which says revenue from Aduhelm could start ramping up next year. Analysts at Guggenheim estimate the drug, which will cost patients $56,000 per year, could generate over $1 billion in sales in 2022. But Brown University Medical School neurology professor Stephen Salloway hopes competition will lower that price tag.
Hopefully this is the first, and there'll be more to come, and then there'll be competition, and hopefully competition will lead to better pricing. And then hopefully there'll be other treatments that we can discover that are more economical.
Most of the cost will be covered by U.S. health insurers and the government's Medicare program. The company's shares soared 38% Monday after the Food and Drug Administration approved Aduhelm as the first ever drug to target a likely cause of Alzheimer's disease. The shares gave back some of those gains in early trading Tuesday, even though a number of brokerage analysts upgraded the stock and raised their price targets.
The US Senate has passed a bill aimed at boosting the country's ability to compete with Chinese technology. The Senate voted on Tuesday 68 to 32 to pass a sweeping new legislation which authorizes spending around $190 billion to strengthen US technology and research. The desire to take a hardline approach to Beijing is one of the few issues which unites the deeply divided US Congress. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was a co-sponsor of the legislation.
Around the globe, authoritarian governments believe that squabbling democracies like ours can't unite around national priorities. They believe that democracy itself is a relic of the past, and that by beating us to emerging technologies, many of them autocracies, will be able to reshape the world in their own image. Well, let me tell you something. I believe they are wrong.
The bill is both about investing in US companies and confronting China's influence. It includes spending $54 billion to increase US production and research into semiconductors and telecommunications equipment. That covers billions of dollars worth of spending on chips used by automakers. There are also measures aimed at curbing China's own tech sector, including a provision banning federal employees from downloading the social media app TikTok on their government devices. In addition to this, the bill bans the purchase of drones manufactured and sold by companies backed by the Chinese government. The wide-ranging legislation aims to counter Beijing's influence on the global stage by working with allies in increasing US involvement in international organizations. US President Joe Biden has thrown his weight behind the legislation, saying, quote, "We are in a competition to win the 21st century, and the starting gun has gone off. We cannot risk falling behind." The bill must now pass the House of Representatives before it can be sent to the White House for Biden to sign into law.
I'm proud to report that the agreements that we have reached, again, are the result of all of the work leading up to this week, and they are very tangible and very specific. Do I declare this trip a success? Yes, I do. As it relates to Guatemala, out of that trip with agreements to establish an anti-corruption task force. This was probably one of the dominant themes of my conversations with the variety of people we met with in Guatemala. We came out of the bilateral today with the President of Mexico and his leading cabinet members with an understanding about what we are going to do in terms of an economic dialogue, which is going to include top members of the United States cabinet, working together with top leaders in Mexico to see how we can expand our economic relationship, understanding, again, the interdependence and the interconnection between the United States and Mexico when it comes to our economies. We came out of our meeting today also declaring and announcing today $130 million that that we are going to dedicate to the labor reform movement here in Mexico. President Joe Biden and I are proud of the fact that we will be the most pro-union administration we've seen. In that way, we see an alignment with the leadership in Mexico.
Muscovites renting electric scooters are about to experience automatic speed controls in the city centre after a string of accidents caused growing concerns about safety. The city's electric scooters have been hired over 1 million times since early April, and their popularity is expected to grow. This has authorities worried as scooter accidents increase, like the one which put David Zaleyev, a dancer from the Mariinsky Ballet, temporarily in a coma. Now, when the rented vehicles enter the area, they are programmed to automatically slow to 9 miles per hour. Magomed Kolgayev of the Moscow Department of Transport explains why.
Due to a lack of regulation on individual mobility devices, together with kick-sharing operators, we have agreed that we will implement the so-called slow zones. These are sections of the street network where the speed of scooters will be automatically reduced to 15 kilometers per hour. This is done to avoid accidents that occur in these sections.
Kolgayev added that Moscow's fleet of rental scooters is expected to double to 20,000 by the end of the year to meet demand. And with interest growing, the city's transport department said it could make more areas subject to speed limits.
Thousands of websites across the globe were coming back online Tuesday after getting hit by a massive internet outage linked to US-based cloud company Fastly. High-traffic sites including Amazon, CNN, PayPal, and the New York Times were down for as long as 1 hour earlier in the day, according to downdetector.com. Fastly is one of the world's most widely used cloud-based content delivery network providers, or CDNs, which help websites use less congested routes, enabling them to move content to consumers faster. Other CDN providers include Amazon's AWS and Akamai Technologies. Fastly reported a disruption from a, quote, service configuration, but did not explain further. Users received error messages when they visited the affected sites, which cyber experts say is an indication that Fastly was not a victim of a cyber attack. Reddit, Spotify, and Bloomberg News were also down, as was the UK government's website. One media firm estimated that websites worldwide lost over $29 million in digital ad revenue per hour during the outage.
Stocks on Wall Street closed nearly flat Wednesday as a lack of market-moving headlines kept institutional investors on the sidelines. The S&P 500 and the Dow finished near the flat line, just shy of their all-time highs, while Amazon and Apple helped lift the Nasdaq 0.3%. O'Neill Global Advisors Chief Investment Officer Randy Watts says the market catalyst could come on Thursday with the release of the Consumer Price Index.
I think the market's kind of waiting right now for the inflation number later this week and also for the FOMC meeting next week. I think that's going to give a lot of short-term direction to the market in terms of inflation.
Small cap stocks, however, saw plenty of action. Retail traders extended the social media-driven meme stock rally by piling into shares of insurance seller Clover Health Investments. Clover soared 86%, making it the Nasdaq's top gainer. Shares of another meme stock, retailer GameStop, rose 7% ahead of its earnings report Wednesday. Those shares have skyrocketed nearly 1,500% this year. Shares of Boeing inched higher after Southwest Airlines said it ordered 34 new 737 MAX jets.
So far, these have been the latest news for today. Goodbye. Take care.